Years ago, I made a video about German terms that you're often going to find in music. Things like Dämpfer, geteilt, Schlagzeug, etc. And I was very comfortable making that because I speak German, and I think overall my pronunciation is very good. And I think I even mentioned in that video that I didn't want to do anything with French terms because of how awful my French pronunciation is. However, I think I've gotten a little bit better. And when I did my video on Lully, someone commented that my French pronunciation really isn't as bad as I thought. So, now that I know that I can at least somewhat pronounce the language without it sounding like a flaming pile of garbage, I wanted to make a follow-up video on terms that you'll see a lot in music, but this time in French. A lot of these terms that you'll learn here are super common, especially in Debussy and Ravel. And they're of course not the only composers to use these, but I did use their music as a little bit of inspiration to help me decide what to include here. So without further ado, let's get started. First, tempo. You probably know the Italian adagio, allegro, presto, lento, andante, etc. So in French, we've got lent, slow, and modéré, which is our moderato equivalent, moderate tempo. We also have animé, which is animated or animato. This is not to be confused with animé with a Z at the end, which is a verb that in a musical context means becoming more animated. We'll cover that later. There's also vif, meaning lively, and vite, meaning fast. That's another pair that's pretty easy to get confused, so do be careful with those. You'll also want to know about au mouvement, which, depending on context, can either be a reminder to stop doing rubato or whatever and really be in tempo, or to go back to the original tempo after messing around with it in some way beforehand, like slowing down, speeding up, whatever. There are also some little modifiers that are helpful to use. There's presque, which means almost, like the Italian quasi, and also très, which means very. On the other hand, un peu, a little, and peu à peu, gradually, or little by little, as you may want to think of it. And plus, meaning more. So plus lent means more slowly. And lastly, assez, meaning quite or pretty. So assez vif is quite lively or pretty lively. So besides the tempi themselves, we also need to contend with some related words that cover modifications in the tempo. Like our Italian friends rallentando and accelerando, for example. In French music, you'll sometimes see rits and rals and whatnot in Italian, but you cannot count on it all the time. One term that's super common is cede, which can cause a lot of confusion, because if you throw it into Google Translate, for example, it says give in. But what the faure does that mean in this context? The way I tend to think of it is by comparing it to the equally nebulous German term Zeitlassen. And with both of those terms, the way I like to think about it is like I'm holding a taut rope that is the tempo. And when I see cede or Zeitlassen, I just let out maybe 6 inches of the rope so that it sags a little bit. Just a gentle relaxation in tempo is what I'm trying to say with that kind of peculiar analogy or metaphor or whatever. I can't think properly back to 9th grade English class right now. Anyway, giving it a little slack. We also have animé with a Z, like I mentioned before, which can broadly be compared to the Italian accelerando. And on the other side of things, we have ralentir, which is our rallentando equivalent. We also have retenu, which is held back, like the German zurückhaltend. And there's largement, which probably would have fit better before with our tempo markings, but means broad or wide. Okay, time for a lightning round. Character and miscellaneous words. Little things that just give us clues about how we should play something, especially from a stylistic perspective. Sec, dry. Légèrement, light. Lourd, heavy. Joyeux, joyful. Triste, sad. Flottant, floating. Lointain, oh, that's a hard one for me to say. Distant. En dehors, prominent. Doux, sweet, basically a dolce equivalent as far as I can tell. Now, let's go on to some things that are string instrument specific. We'll start with sur le chevalet. That means on or at the bridge, like sul ponticello. And in the other direction, sur la touche, on the fingerboard. The mute is known as sourdine, and there are several things used along with it. Sometimes the word will be used alone, which just means that the mute should be used starting at the spot where it's marked. There's also mettez sourdine, put on the mute, and ôtez sourdine, remove the mute. Now you remember that word sur from before, like sur la touche, sur la chevalet? That can also be used for string indications. All it means in this context is on. So for example, if it says sur, Roman numeral 3, or sur sol, you would play it on the G string. There are also indications you may see about where to play in the bow. Du talon means to play from the frog, and de la pointe means to play from the tip. So I know we just talked about a bunch of string-specific stuff, but I don't want anybody in the orchestra to feel left out, so let's talk about the names of some other instruments in French. We will start with the strings, but we'll be done with those in just a second. Violin is violon, cello is violoncelle, bass is contrebasse. Those are pretty simple. But viola is the only one that's sort of an outlier as far as the name goes. The name in French for viola is alto. If you get confused, just think of it as the clef that violas usually use. Let's see if you can guess these wind instruments, though. Basson, saxophone, flûte, clarinette, clarinette basse. I don't think I have to give you any translations for those, except maybe that clarinette basse is bass clarinet. The only one that may be less obvious to look at is oboe, which is hautbois. Its cousin, the English horn, is cor anglais. How about brass? Trumpet is trompette, tuba is tuba, and horn is cor. But my favorite, trombone. Now the French translation is just trombone, but the reason this is my favorite is because of what trombone also means. Paperclip. So for example, somebody might mistranslate and say they're playing Lonnie Grandal's Paperclip Concerto, or the Martin Ballade for solo paperclip and orchestra. I hope any of my paperclip playing friends appreciate those jokes. Moving right along, piano is piano, organ is orgue, and harpsichord is clavecin. Shall we visit our friends in the percussion section now? Bass drum is grosse caisse, timpani are tambal, snare drum is caisse claire, and cymbals are cymbales. I'm not going to spend too much time over here because many of the remaining French names for percussion instruments are cognates, meaning that they're just about the same between English and French. But I will add in the term for hi-hat, which I like so much because it's charleston. Makes me think it's mainly played in South Carolina or something. I'm not sure why it's called that, but it tickled me a little bit. So what have I left out that you'd like to know about? And of course, where did I screw up my pronunciation in this video? I'm bound to have done it at least once. Let me know in the comments below. Regardless though, I hope that this little crash course was helpful to you in your musical journey. And with that, we've come to the end of today's video. But before we say farewell for now, I hope you'll leave a like and a sub. I have a blast making these videos, and I want to cultivate a community of cello and music enthusiasts here on YouTube, and that helps me do that. I release shorts almost every day, and longer videos on Mondays and Fridays, and I would be honored if you'd join me. Sometimes they're funny, sometimes they're educational, and if I play my cards right, they're both. And if you're an adult who wants to learn how to play cello, even if you've never played an instrument before, and even if you don't know how to read music, I would love for you to check out my course. It has over 5 hours of video lectures covering everything from the basics of reading music, to learning how to use the bow, to actually working on repertoire, and tons of stuff in between. Plus, after a one-time purchase of the course, you have lifetime access to me for feedback on your playing. It's available either by visiting the address shown on screen, or by clicking the link in the description. My friend, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. If you're still looking for more cello and music-related content, I cordially invite you to check out these videos here. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.